This is the All-Star Networking Show with your host, Cathy Paper.
Okay, welcome to the All-Star Networking Show. We are recording from Wayzata, Minnesota today, where I am here with my father, Mark Paper. Mark, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Happy to have everyone here.
Okay, and joining us today is John Stavig. John, you and Mark and I go way back, but why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners, and then we'll chat a bit about all things, Minnesota business related.
Sounds great. Good morning, Cathy. Mark, great to see you. So my name is John Stavig. I'm the managing director of the Holmes Center for Entrepreneurship at the Carlson School at the University of Minnesota, and oversee, have the privilege of being able to lead a lot of the experiential education programs across campus. We've got an innovation hub that we run over on the main Walter Library on the main area of campus on the East Bank. We do programs across campus helping researchers take the initial steps in terms of commercializing a lot of the research that they do and the inventions that they come up with. We lead outreach programs in the Twin Cities, best known for the Minnesota Cup, the largest statewide startup competition in the country. We've got a food and ag spinoff from that called Naturally Minnesota that helps to drive connections and accelerate growth of food and ag startups around our state. And, we get to work with bright faculty and students every day. And, it's really a privilege to do that and connect them with folks in the business community. And it's been great to get to know Cathy over the last almost 20 years, and then connecting through with Mark, who's one of our proud alums and has an amazing career that we're gonna tease out a few things from you today, Mark.
Yes, I love it. Okay, Stavig, though, 20 years, really, that was 20 years ago we met at the O'Gara's bar. Wow.
At a professional networking event.
Yes, please, let's say that. Right. Yeah, let's say that. Sorry. So go ahead, Mark. What were you going to say? Yeah.
Am I allowed to talk now? My daughter, Cathy.
Yes.
I'm Mark Paper. Graduated from with an MBA from Minnesota. Oh my God, 70 years ago. So you can figure out how old I am. I ran Louis Bowl Nut Company for 65 years, through a lot of ups and downs, and just recently, a year ago, I turned the business over to our son. So he's the third generation of our company. And we're already talking about hoping that it can be fourth generation. As far as networking, my daughter says, without my knowing it, that I do a pretty good job of doing it. And I think it just comes from having a wide range of friends, being nice to people, and you never know. The more you expose yourself to other people, ideas you may pick up. I certainly had a philosophy of running a business that the best thing I can do is find good people and trust them. And if they know that I trust them, they're not afraid to take chances. And I think that is a big reason for my success in life.
Well, Mark, this is the first time we've had a chance to talk since you stepped down from full-time CEO. And I think it was a Forbes article a few years ago where they, were pointing you out as the CEO who keeps reporting to the office day after day. How did you make that decision to step down, and how did you communicate it with your family and management team?
Well, I think that as obviously as you get older, you know that your time is limited, and I think the actual, unfortunately, the actual decision was hastened by the fact that I had an unfortunate health episode that limited my ability. But I think that part of any owner's president's obligation is to recognize that you can't be somewhere forever. You have to set it up so that it can run without you. And I think that it was time. And our son, very competent, uh, is able to do it.
Well,
Uh,
it sounds like you had the succession planning in place, and that was able to move forward. And you know, so you almost 65 years as CEO. You obviously had a few ups and downs, or many up.
65,
What's that?
65.
65. Yep, yep. A lot of ups and downs in that period. I think for entrepreneurs, we try and get them to think long term of, this isn't a couple years, this is a decade or more of building a business. You stretch that a lot further, but you're always so optimistic and resilient. So, what advice would you have for entrepreneurs about how to stay optimistic as you're facing those really challenging times?
Well, I think that first of all, it starts out with having a belief in yourself, and if you have that, it helps. I'd say I've gone through my 65 years, two periods of ups and downs. The downs are tougher, but if you believe first in yourself and then in what you're trying to do, at least in my case, I've been fortunate that we've we've pulled through. But I certainly believe that as good as you are, you're not as good as the summation of other people, and that's why I joined groups of presidents all through my career, and I've had friends and people in business that I constantly talk to get ideas because obviously I don't have them all. Uh,
Yeah, I know when we've talked before, you've invested a lot of time in developing a network and finding people that you can go to for advice, but you've also always said that, it's your decision at the end, and you can't let other people make decisions for you. Maybe
I
say,
don't know. Excuse me for interrupting. No, that's exactly at least it worked for me, is get as much advice as you've got time for, but and then decide which works for you, which may or may not be true. And at this point in my life, it didn't seem very complicated, but maybe it is.
But John, it's interesting that you remember him saying he gets advice from people, but ultimately it's his decision. I
Mhm.
think as an entrepreneur, that belief in yourself needs to be first, right? But how do you decide as an entrepreneur when you do listen to somebody else that says, hey,
Yeah,
you should go talk to this manufacturer, or here's a question with your business plan. Uh,
you see a lot of first-time entrepreneurs or early business leaders, kind of get whipsawed by differing advice, or, investors will regularly give conflicting advice, for companies out raising money. And, I think it takes a little while to kind of find your own grounding and to be able to, respond to that in a way without, giving up your ownership of the decisions.
Yeah, you're very wise about saying it starts out with being reasonably well grounded in confidence in yourself, and at the same time recognizing that you don't have every answer, and you can always keep learning.
Yeah. And you've always been big about, leadership teams. And I know I had an article, I think you shot back that, around just getting the right people together, getting the resources and getting out of the way, has always been an approach that I've utilized. And I think aligns with a lot of your beliefs. But talk about leadership. And I think a couple of big themes you've always had were around building trust and then empowering the team. Maybe say a little bit more about that.
Well, I think you've described it pretty well. To me, it's not complicated. Find good people and let them know that you trust them, and that they can use their own ingenuity. I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem complicated, but maybe, but
Yeah.
maybe I'm just
I think
lucky.
that's the beauty of it is when it is simpler. So you say you trust them first. How does somebody earn your trust as the CEO?
Well, by their performance is not complicated in my opinion. It's if they're dedicated to the situation and the responsibility they have. Uh, I suppose an added, I don't know if this is apropos, but certainly part of the success I've had in running a business is is it's a longer story about moving out of Minnesota to have a manufacturer. Anyway, the idea is that every person that works for me now, after a year, is on a profit sharing program. So the company does well, they do well.
They get an
Yeah.
owner's mentality through the
Get an
profit
owner
sharing. Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
It's absolutely correct, and I don't know how many companies do that, but you know better than I.
Yeah.
Uh,
Not as many as directly or as effectively as I think you've done it. And I think in
Did
it,
you did you always have that, or like that moment was when you moved Lewis one of the low points?
oh, absolutely, but I never was able uh, to to get that through in our Minnesota operation, but we've been located in Lacana, Colorado for over 30 years, and I think the last 27 or 28 years, everybody's been on profit sharing there, and
yeah.
it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
No,
might not be,
another
Yeah.
effective
huh?
tool another effective tool if you can keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but John, I have a question because you see a lot of entrepreneurs that are just starting out. And Mark, you said, it's pretty easy to trust people if they just do their jobs. How do you get people comfortable making mistakes? Or you said it's based on performance, but yet at the beginning, you're going to make a lot of mistakes together. I mean, look, we're all Vikings fans. We did fine for a while, and then there were some terrible, terrible mistakes made that obviously there's going to need to be some big changes. But how do you get an employee to have their own confidence but yet make mistakes? Or how do you, as the entrepreneur who usually is pretty confident in themselves, right?
Well, I think the answer is simple enough that it's how you communicate with the person that you're going to make mistakes, but you got to learn from your mistakes, and and if you don't, then it's not working. Uh, but if people can learn that they can make a mistake and nothing's going to happen, uh, if it doesn't happen too often, and you make the necessary adjustments so it doesn't happen again. I guess I'm not explaining it very well, but to me, it's
Oh,
simple.
Yeah, I think the character is revealed by the workers in that situation, how they respond to it and how they communicate it or not. And then I think the management team really sends a powerful signal in terms of, whether that mistake is a step forward and learning. Hopefully, it's one time and it's learning and advancing the company as opposed to repetitive mistakes or something that could have been avoided. And I remember one of I think the IBM founder was kind of famous for, saying, why would I fire that person? They made $1 million mistake, but I just invested $1 million in their development. Right.
Yeah,
right. Oh, that's good.
yeah.
So
That's good.
what about hiring, Mark, in terms of the people you brought on over time? How did you get a feel that they were someone you could trust or you could depend upon? I mean, you must have hired hundreds of people through Lewis over the years, if not
Yeah, but
thousands.
that's not That's not exactly accurate because basically, I have only hired over the years the person to run our financial department or our plant manager or our sales person, and they have hired the well, now it's 300 employees, but they've hired the others because they are, in my opinion, they're better qualified than I am to make the decision of who can help them.
Yep. So you empower them to build their own teams. But
Exactly.
for the ones that you were hiring, what did you look for above all else in terms of selecting the people for your team, your immediate reports?
Give me a minute to think about that one. You know, I think I was lucky that I was maybe born with the ability to make a pretty good judgment of people uh, over my lifetime,
Hmm.
including a marriage. My God, it's last 66 years.
I might call that a snap judgment of people.
Yeah.
I will let me add this in for you, John, is I had a boss at one of my early jobs, and Mark walked down the hall, shook the guy's hand, walked into my office and said, "He's dumb."
You've got
And
that sixth sense for people, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
and that poor guy, I mean, I never told him that, but I have to admit I kind of agree, was not exactly well cast in his role.
Um, which brings up, of course, first impressions are so important because
Yep.
they are lasting impressions, and if you're right 90% of the time, you're lucky. But it is a skill.
So how do you one of the things that I think is, kind of a hot topic now is, finding your passion or being passionate about your business. And what I've always found interesting is with a business, kind of traditional line businesses of which, nuts and bolts, you don't get any more fundamental or basic than that. How do you find passion in that business, like you have for the 60 plus years of running it? How do you stay excited about it if it's, some people might say, it's just a widget or it's just a bolt.
Again, I think as you get to know a person, people, and they see my passion for the business, uh, they they accept that's a good way to operate, and uh, uh, and of course, there have been throughout the years I've made mistakes. People have not turned out so well, and that's another situation. Of course, is there is a general tendency to hire quickly and not fire quick enough. And I think
Hmm.
the right answer is somewhere in between. Of course, I mean, you got to have some patience with people, but you, after a while, you can tell, and you can't be afraid to make adjustments. Uh,
But if for a lot of our students, they think I've got to pursue my passion. I'm a tennis player. I want to be in that industry, or I want to go work for Tesla or some sexy company. You've had a passion, firing up yourself and going into work every day. That it's more than just the product that you make. What drives you?
Well, I think Cathy, our daughter, says that I'm one of the most competitive people that she knows, and of course, competition has always been a part of my life, going back to eighth and ninth grade, uh, and I guess you like to win, and
Yeah.
and and winning in business means being successful, and if you can show passion, it rubs off. And uh, I don't know. Is
Can,
that
can I, can I give my 2 cents on this one, John?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because when I see Mark working a puzzle, what are those? He does these puzzles in the newspaper that,
Sudokus?
yeah, all these things that, 5 stars, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know what they are. But I think there's something about your ability to solve a problem and
Mhm.
work the problem over and over to get the win, that it's not about competing with other people. It's about, if we analyze the railroad industry, you went to all those conferences, but found out that a lot of people were going to go under. And if you just hung on, the business would survive. Like there's something about the competition and like the analysis of it all that I've
Yeah.
always said, it's not like you want to compete to say that I'm better than that other person. You want to be the best you, well, wait, do you want to beat the other person?
Yeah.
It can be
Yeah.
both. Right. Right.
Yeah, no. And I take pride in the fact that over the years, 90% of the people in Bolton nut industry that were around 50 years ago are gone, and there's a I'm practically the only one in the USA that's doing what we're doing, which is basically supplying fasteners to the railroad and transit authority businesses throughout the country in North America.
Yeah, so
Whether
you've been successful there, and I think just the thrill of seeing your team succeed, and the hundreds of families that you're helping through your employees, and the success that kind of spreads throughout that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I I feel good about myself what
Yeah.
I've come,
No,
and
yeah.
and of course that's my hope for entrepreneurs who are different. Uh, John, you could describe better than I can the
Yeah.
qualities that make
If
for a
if the
successful.
entire world were made up of entrepreneurs, we'd have a chaotic mess. Yeah, but we're dependent upon that 10 or 20% to drive change, right?
Uh,
And be the unreasonable people who
but
drive
but
change.
but but what do you think are the qualities that make an entrepreneur successful?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I think the curiosity and the problem solving, I think that Cathy was getting at there, that, they really are, passionate about solving specific problems. And I think the team orientation that you talked about in terms of, building and having an impact bigger than themselves and being able to leverage it through people and kind of share that success. And I think that, the optimism and the resilience, if you don't have that, it tends to be a pretty quick run because you're gonna get punched in the face and you're gonna fall down. And if you aren't able to come back and lead a team and, generate passion and interest amongst that team, you're not going to be successful for very long. So I think a lot of the things, that we've been talking about and the lessons I know I've learned from knowing you, for the last 15 or 20 years, are exactly what the entrepreneurs need to be hearing. And, I think, I don't know if you've been able to kind of step back and reflect, what wish you had known, when you were coming out of school, or when I think you called your dad and said you were ready to run the company. What advice would you have given to yourself at that point in time? I think you've got, some amazing lessons that you've learned that are valuable for the entrepreneurs today. So I'd turn it back to you in terms of, if you could have that conversation with yourself when you were, graduating from the university in the mid 50s, or when you stepped up in the 60s to have the confidence in yourself to lead Lewis. What do you wish you had known, or what advice would you give to yourself?
Well, the one thing that does come to my mind is when I took over at age 29, 1962. I was cocky, and uh, and it wasn't until I was having difficult times that I recognized that there is value in listening to other people and joining either YPO, or I ended up joining the business group called Vistage, which is other people in similar positions to myself who have no financial interest in my company. I don't have theirs, but be able to talk to them, listen to them, give them ideas how they might do better, and they gave me ideas that that was really a turning point in my successful career, was that as much as I thought I knew it all, I didn't, and that I could learn, and you can keep learning. Well, I suppose now I don't learn so much.
You learn.
but no. But
We got a new watch. He learns plenty.
no, I can't figure out how to work
Yeah.
the darn thing.
You should see him on. You learn plenty. I think actually I'm sitting here wondering about his strength finder, but
My what?
strength finder is a tool that's what just comes naturally to you. Strength finder. It's from the Gallup organization. Yeah, but he is a learner. I'll make him take that. You'll learn some of that. Because I do think you should keep sharing the fact that you said you were cocky, but you could listen to people. An entrepreneur doesn't realize that. Because you got to have just enough.
It's a balance. You've got to be sure of yourself, and yet you've got to believe or understand that you don't know it all, and that you can learn from others.
Yeah, I remember Charlie Cannon, another alum and entrepreneur locally, used to talk about, throughout your career, there's confidence that starts out very high for entrepreneurs and enables them to take on huge challenges that probably dissipates a little bit over time as they become more aware of the challenges.
Yeah.
But then the competence side of it might start lower, but you get better at being an entrepreneur over time, and those two things offset. But if you're not somewhat overly confident early on, you're not the unreasonable person who's going to drive that change. So we're dependent upon people like you, Mark, who stepped up early in their career and had the belief that they could figure it out and had the confidence in themselves, and
Thank you.
didn't try to do it alone. Did it through a network of people, and found a way to be successful. And as you've done, found a way to build a management team and found a team to hand it off to keep the success going. So I would be was curious, just if you're on the family side of things, advice for people, and I think we get different perspectives in terms of how to you've obviously maintained a very close family and the relationships that oftentimes is not the case. What advice would you have for folks considering going into work with family?
Wait a second. I might have to leave the room for this part of the conversation.
Well, no. I have grown up in a family where my mother did not talk to her siblings over family businesses, and my dad didn't talk to his two brothers for 20 years over family business. So family businesses are another story. And I guess my daughter sitting next to me is making me discuss the fact that I did make a decision that for the success of the company and of our family to stay united, that there had to be just one member of the family. And she says I'm a male chauvinist because there was one son and he got he got the position.
So did you bring the work home with you, or did you try and draw a line and have it be separate?
Yeah, no, I didn't bring it home.
Okay.
I don't think you were really that aware when you were growing
No, but
up.
I want to go back to one thing actually when you were talking, John. Uh, Mark's network of people growing up, both my parents, both went to the University of Minnesota, and all of those couples primarily were entrepreneurs. And I found that interesting. Some maybe were given a business. There were a lawyer and a doctor too, but they were name partners
Yeah.
or they were running their practices. Like that was something I observed at an early stage of how come all your friends are business owners and they didn't do business together, but they each had their own businesses that I don't know if that was because of who you had gone to the U with or if it just happened that way, but
Or
a lot of
what are your thoughts maybe on the, my father-in-law was same thing, Central High School and in St. Paul and, about your age and, ran a public company, but was an entrepreneur, kind of trapped inside a big company. I think that generation that you grew up with, I mean, this is the greatest generation and the effect of the Depression and the World War coming through. I don't know. Thoughts on that, Mark?
Well, uh, the thoughts that I was having is that interestingly, amongst all our friends, that is correct. They tend to be entrepreneurs. But the other interesting thing about my friends is that other than one later in life, there were no divorces. We all stayed married for many years. Now, why that happened, I'm not sure, other than, of course, uh, being married is I've been lucky enough to have a wife that uh, put up with my nonsense.
let's just say marriage is a lot of work. It's
And
compromise.
it's compromise.
It's rewarding, but it's compromise.
It's rewarding. Yeah, I remember. I'm going off subject, but you were asking me once, Cathy, how come all your friends are still married? And my simplistic answer was, neither one of us have won the battle. So
It's a stalemate. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I guess I I'm diverting a little bit. Uh, what was the question already? I forgot.
We'll keep moving along. I did,
Okay.
you've been retired now for a year, so you've had time to think. I mean, as you reflect back on your career, particularly, what are you most proud of?
Well, I think having gone through two almost being broke episodes that I'm most proud of that have existed for 65 years, uh, uh, and I'm most proud of that never been sued, uh, that by and large uh, the employees that have worked for me have respected me. Uh, uh, certainly. Oh, I should mention it that we were as recently as 2, 3 years ago recognized as Supplier of the Year to the railroad industry. Uh, we're honest people most of the time. No, uh, uh, no, I'm I'm proud. Uh, and I guess it's a good time to tell the story that when I turned the business over to our son this year,
Hmm.
or last year, beginning of last year, and he's learned because I said to him, "You've done a great job this year, Tom. Your first year running the company." He said, and he said, "Well, I didn't do anything." And I said, I said, that's why you've done a good job, that you've trusted the people there. And of course, it's not true because he has done things. But again, no, I certainly can look back, and I don't know if there's many people that can say, 60 or 70 years and that they're proud of what they accomplished. But I am, and couldn't have done it without good people.
Yeah, well, Tom certainly sounds like he's got a lot of similarities in his modesty, like you. But I mean, you should be tremendously proud of the run you've had, and I know the reputation, how important that is, and
What do
particularly
you think of your brother, Kathy? You're shaking your head.
I'm going to take a sip of my coffee.
Well, he'll learn over time, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, people listening to this could say, humor is a good part of my life, and
Yep.
yeah,
I remember.
use properly. Yeah.
I remember you bringing the tomatoes to throw at Harvey McKay the one time he came and spoke. So, yeah, you've always had a good sense of humor, and yeah, as I say, a lot to be proud of in terms of the company you've built, the lives you've impacted through the employees, and the family you've built and stayed with. So and the reputation that you carry with you as you look forward. I heard about some 5K or something like that. What? I don't think you're going to run any more marathons, or I think your goalie days might be behind you. But what do you look? And you've got the two grandsons. What are you looking forward to?
What am I looking forward to for myself is to regain my strength so that I can walk again without canes. It may or may not happen. Uh, no, I look forward to remaining. I've said over the years that I must have been born with the positive gene. Uh, I don't know if that's an accurate uh, thing, but I believe it, that somehow I was lucky. Uh, 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 Especially when first time I thought about it, my parents didn't particularly have that gene, but I certainly did. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to, to life.
Not like the Vikings going to a Super Bowl.
We don't want to discuss the Vikings other than unfortunately one of those who went to all four Super Bowls and suffered through. But there are worse things.
I think, John, you asked for some really good questions, and if you have them written down, maybe we got to send them to Mark. I think I've told him that sort of the 10 things I wish I knew when I started my business. Like we used to call him Frank the philosopher years ago. And I think there's some business wisdom that's untapped. And I actually, you and I have spent a lot of time around entrepreneurs and small business owners, and there's something that gets you over the hump that I don't know if you could book learn it, but I think you could start to trust it. And Mark has that. And again, I don't know what it is, but
I can answer. It's
okay,
easy.
it's easy. See, everything's easy and simple.
Just to believe in yourself. It's not complicated. You're not perfect, but you believe in yourself. And
Yeah,
no,
I think what you said earlier, Mark, in terms of
pardon me?
what you said earlier in terms of the optimism gene.
Yeah,
If you believe in that, I think you're going to be successful and find
yeah,
a way. I mean, to me, it's that simple.
yeah. I wonder what percent of people who are quotation marks successful believe the same thing, that they've got that.
But okay, can we, and I know we're sort of nearing the end of our time on things, but could you go back to, you were probably sitting in your house on Summit Avenue, and didn't you have to get your friends to sponsor you for a bank loan?
Well, that's another story.
Did you not have to? I mean, how do you have optimism in those crunch moments of?
What Kathy's referring to is when our business was at one of its worst points, and I was desperate and needed financing and couldn't get it. I went to 7 of my friends and asked if they would guarantee a loan, and 6 of them said right away. And I'm not going to tell you who the 7th one was, but he said, "I'll call you back." And but anyway, all 7 did. And that made me feel good that I'd built up a reputation.
And were those 7 your group of people from college, or I don't remember the 7, but I know one was a relative that was in business up in Duluth.
Yeah, it was a mixture of one relative and 4 were friends from college, and the other 2 were later friends.
Yeah.
But people will only do that if they believe you're going to be successful, right? So I think they had some faith in you being able to find a way, right?
Yeah, well, I got 2 stories to say that. One, and that you've been an honest person most of your life.
Yep.
But 20 years later or 30 years later, I found out from a few of them that they really didn't think I was going to be successful. They were sort of amazed that I survived and have gotten to the point that I got to.
Wait, how many bet against you?
They didn't bet against me.
They gave you they guaranteed the money, but they weren't sure you could do it.
Right, exactly.
2 of them or 3 of them?
I don't remember.
Well, see, this is where I will go again on record. Most competitive, determined person I have ever met.
So did I hear correctly in terms of an all-state goalie back in the day? In terms of competitiveness, was that?
No. I guess this is a good time to brag a little bit. Within the past year. Now, wait a minute. But 2 years ago, somebody next to me, Cathy Paper, got into the St. Paul Academy Hall of Fame. But last year, or this
Sports Hall of Fame.
Sports Hall of Fame. Oh God, not mental. This year, I did. And yeah, I loved competition, and I still do.
But didn't you play at Williams Arena in hockey? I think what John's asking about, why do I feel like you were all state in hockey as a goalie?
In the last game that I played in high school, and actually the last game of hockey, I didn't try and play it. We beat Cretin, who hadn't lost a game in 35 games. 2-1. Oh God, is this being recorded?
Yeah.
Your mind is still sharp. You've got the scores from 70 years ago. So.
And I remember the Cretin players cried after the game was over.
Oh, that might be a good note to end on, John, don't you think? Or what other questions or thoughts do you have? And how do people get a hold of you and support the Holmes Center and all the good work that you're doing for this community and state?
Yeah, no, always looking for volunteers to get involved, whether it's in the Minnesota Cup or mentoring students or things like that. And appreciate, Mark, everything you've done for us, and Cathy, your involvement with our programs and on a personal level as well. So really proud to call you friends of ours. And Mark, as an alum, you're just a tremendous role model for our students. Glad we could feature you in the magazine a couple of years ago and, spread your story. I mean, it's really an amazing story, and you have a lot to be proud of, and look forward to seeing you back at the Gopher game soon.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the All-Star Networking Show with Cathy Paper. If you're interested in being a guest, please contact Cathy at www.rockpaperstar.com.